Hello there and welcome back to War Thunder. Today I want to present you the Maxim Gorky, and I want to begin a little bit in the hangar. Before we go right into it, a few things up front. First of all, I got the ship for a test drive by Gaijin, so mine is fully upgraded. When you get your hands on this ship, it will be stocked just like a Tech 3 ship. Point number one. Point number two, this is not a premium reward. Just like the F11 and the Maxis, they are not premiums. So another question is if this thing is worth a talisman, because it's also in a relatively unique spot. I think together with the Italians, the Soviets are the only ones that don't have a rank 4 premium cruiser. It might come with the next patch or in 2 patches, I don't know. What I know is that the Maxim Gorky is very similar to the Kirov, but a little bit better in terms of armor and AA, but nothing that really changes the world. So it is a good ship. I kind of like the guns and I don't like the guns. I will spend a little bit of time in the hangar because I want to show you things that you cannot see yet in your hangar. First of all, let's talk about the armor. The belt is 70mm, as well as there is the bulkheads and the barbettes, the turret face as well, and the turret side is 50mm. The deck plating is 50mm as well. The bridge and conning tower are protected by 150mm of armor, and the rest is kind of not armored. Maybe here a little bit at the stern for the rudder, I guess. That is pretty much like the Kirov, except that the Kirov has 50mm everywhere. But that doesn't mean that suddenly you are one hell of a tanky beast. This is still less armor than the S.U.M.M.E.R, and you know, that explodes as well. So you kind of can get away with angling in sharply and hope that no shell gets here, because then you kind of have at distance, you know, a decent chance of bouncing shells. But the barbettes and the turret faces, I mean, yeah, versus HE Splash they are now better protected, but again, it's not making the world's greatest difference. Then the AA, it's supposed to be a bit better. Here the Kirov has more or less the same, and if we go into the ammunition selection, what the Kirov has and what the Maxim Gorky have in terms of torpedoes, main battery shells, and secondaries, aka heavy A, it's pretty much the same. So if you like the Kirov, or if you have it, and yeah, the Maxim Gorky is a good choice. But in terms of a grinding machine, I have to say that in the current state, a cruiser is probably not the best choice, regardless of how cheap you can get it. But if you have never had the chance to play any cruiser, you missed the British reward ship, then yeah, this is definitely something that is a top tier, top battle rating reward ship, and you can put a talisman on it for 2,100 golden eagles, sorry, and that costs you roughly, the cheapest that you can get it is $1650 or euros, whatever. And yeah, that is significantly cheaper. That's roughly a third of the cost of a high tier premium like the Prinz Eugen. But the Prinz Eugen, for example, gets you significantly more civil lines because it is a full premium, and also you can research the entirety of the tech tree without RP penalty. So the Maxim Gorky could, with a talisman, research effectively all the destroyers and all the cruisers. But then at 5.7 you only have one ship, but you can always use some of your patrol boats to cap the caps and then decide the battle that way. Not the nicest of gameplays, and I'll talk about this in just a minute. Now, one thing about the main batteries is that they have the ammunition just underwater, but the shell room itself is at the waterline and just above, so it is still very vulnerable. And the firing angles for the rear turret is good. You have 9 180mm guns, and you know, you have a decent kind of a good compromise between DPM and Alpha Strike. So you fire every 11 seconds. I think the S.U.M.M.E.R has every 12 seconds, but you have slightly smaller guns. But when it comes to, and this is a big important point, when it comes to the ammunition, the HE shell is second only to the Graf Spee 11-inch shell, but HE has been significantly nerfed, and this kind of killed the magic of the Kirov and also therefore the Maxim Gorky in this patch. If Gaijin brings the old HE magic back, which supposedly was a bug, I don't know, we will see, but they still need to overhaul it because it inflicts way too few damage points on destroyers and also cruisers that have the anti-fragmentation armor. The armor piercing itself, nothing wrong with it, good shell velocity, and if you have something like a light cruiser that where your HE is not good enough, there's always the PB32 semi-armor piercing cap ballistic cap sap shell basically, and that is really good because it still has like half the penetration of the armor piercing shell, but has nearly 11 kilograms of bursting charge. That's almost 4 times as much as the standard armor piercing round. And for good measure, you also have the best or a pretty decent flak shell, but you know, that's a special thing. When it comes to the torpedoes, 3 per side, not the fastest, not the longest range, but at least you have them in close quarters fights when something's coming around the corner as a last measure of defense. Turret rotation speed is fairly adequate, I really like it, and what you can see here, the skin, is what you get for 11 stars. So the ship you can get for 10 stars. The question is if you get the coupon for it, if you get the 10th star, should you get this ship or should you sell it? Should you activate the coupon for yourself or should you sell it? That is entirely up to you. I personally would keep it because it is a good collector's ship. It at the moment makes you a very good lineup of 4 capable 5.7 ships for the Soviets, and you know, it's also with the skin very beautiful, I have to admit. But in terms of performance, I think without further ado, let's go into the gameplay and let's see what this ship can do. So with the gameplay, I want to show you that the guns are really somewhere between heavy cruisers and light cruisers. The rate of fire for heavy cruiser guns is on the higher side. The alpha strike is also pretty good, but you struggle a little bit with the accuracy, and I think that's currently down to the overall state that Naval Forces is in. I think a lot of the issues that you might experience with the ship are not really the ship's fault, but more down to how awfully designed Naval Forces at the moment are. So here I'm just peppering a light cruiser, probably a bot, and I try a little bit around with the ammunition. Here I'm using the sap because the armor on this enemy at distance is, despite being angled, thin enough so I can go through, and with only 2% remaining, I think to myself, well, surely I can get this kill, right? So last salvo is out, and yeah, before the shells land, I get a kill assist. Now we see a little bit of the advantage of having 9 guns in 11 seconds reload, because there are 2 bot patrol boats. Now, they are not the greatest threats, but you still need to kill them in order to prevent capping, in order to prevent them to get a torpedo run on you or on a friendly, you know, or just simply to rack up the kills. And we can see that at this distance the accuracy kind of behaves itself, and within like 20 seconds we got 2 kills. There is then yet another enemy, and he's like at what, 7-8 kilometers. So yeah, let's just try out the HE with the first salvo, and then let's switch back to the sap. I will have a melee, not a melee, I will have a fight with a Graf Spee at long range soon. I have edited this a little bit, but this should give you a good impression of what the fight is usually like. Look at this map, look at the cap that I'm in, look at the fighting distances and how far the spawns are from each other. At any moment somebody could just simply spawn on my flank, and all my angling, all my playing around with the speed is for nothing, because he then has my more or less flat broadside, and the 70mm are not really the greatest defense to begin with. But also you can see how long I have to fight this Krasny Kafkas, which is a bot. most likely, to put him down. My aim is decent, but the accuracy is all over the place. Half the shells go behind the target, some land short, and only a few really land. And in other salvos, like, you land 3, 4, 5 shells. That is not the problem of the aim, that is the problem of the accuracy and the unreliability of these guns. But this is more down to the fact that I think all guns of this caliber and higher have been nerfed hard. And finally, we have here a crew knockout. And yeah, there is now another target, and I try to switch the shell type. Now here I used the kind of default fully upgraded loadout, equal amounts of HE, AP and SAP, and so I try my luck here and I try to switch between the shell types. Here again I use the SAP and try to just simply punch through the armor of this Italian cruiser, and when I hit I don't have too much trouble. Also the way that I angle in allows me to have the best firing arcs for all 9 guns, but still keep the best amount of angling possible. Now the gameplay itself for me personally at this stage is not good, and we get a lucky ammo strike finally. So many minutes later, I finally fight a Graf Spee at 12.5 kilometers, and some salvos went out, some salvos you know, missed, some actually landed but didn't do the greatest amount of damage. And then you can see also I am relatively short now on the AP. And this can actually happen with the amount of guns and the amount of ammunition that you have, that you can run out of ammunition. And you know, it depends greatly on the target, which kind of targets you want to put down. And finally we get a crew knockout, but I think it was an ammo rack. And now that was actually what I wanted to show you. So for 5 kills and 5 assists with a premium account, but no boosters and no talisman, I got 31,000 Silver Lions and 6,500 modification research points. If I actually would research something, I probably would get more depending on the rank of what I'm researching, and with a talisman it would be like 9-10,000 RP. And there you can see I was with quite a bit in terms of score points and damage done first on the leaderboard. So not the greatest grinding machine, but that's down to the game mode, not the ship's fault. The ship is kind of okay, and yeah, that's it for me today. So thanks for watching, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this kind of video format, and you give it a like if you did, subscribe if you want to see more. Let me know in the comment section what you think about this prize, this reward, and as usual we will see each other on the battlefields, in the skies, and on the waves of War Thunder.